And we are live. Good evening, everyone. Good afternoon for wherever you are joining us from.
Evening.
And welcome to the final virtual event and the final workshop we are going to have for the Build Bootcamp. Okay, right now we have no viewers. I don't know if I should wait for people to come online before we start, or if we should continue just like that. So,
Yeah.
um, So, Jome, what do you think? Should I continue or should I go on? Go
Yeah.
on.
I get you can continue. Continue.
Okay, I
Let's
can
continue.
continue. Okay, thank you. Okay, and like before we go over to what we have today, which is building a quiz app with Jome favorites. I wish to share my experience since we started the bootcamp, my user experience, like being the organizer, one of the organizer of the bootcamp. So me personally, I am quite enjoying myself since the past few weeks that we started because I can say my social life increased plus one. I've met a lot of people online and on site, and it's nice connecting with people and sharing your experience, helping out, getting the response, get the feedback, positive feedback we've been getting, and the whole thing has been wonderful, very wonderful. So if you are online or whenever you join, I will leave a tag so you could share your own experience. Tell us how you feel about the bootcamp or what we should improve on, and what you really like, and any other thing. So here with me, I have Jome Favorites. Jome Favorites is from Redeem University. He's a seasoned front end developer. When I mean seasoned, I mean it. I mean it. So Jome, we'll be building a quiz app,
Yeah.
with Jome. So dig in and enjoy. So before he starts, he's going to say a little stuff about himself and tell us more about himself. So, Jome, you can share your screen now.
Wait.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. Sorry. Let me just present.
Okay,
Okay. Okay. Wow. It's like Canvas changed. Okay. Okay. I'm just going to leave it like this. I hope everyone can
okay.
see. Yes.
Name,
So
name. Yeah,
yeah.
it's okay. It's okay.
Okay. I'm Favorite Jume. I'm a front-end developer and a technical writer. Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter, hashnode where I write, and on GitHub. Those are my socials. So yeah, I'm a computer science major in my final year, and I like to learn new things, mostly in the tech line. Yeah, but I also do other things. So I've participated in hackathons, I've built some personal projects. I also worked at varsity.com where I did my IT. And I currently work at a company named Hero. Enough about me. So let's look at what we'll be covering in today's event. So we'll be looking at how to properly structure our HTML files, writing semantic HTML. We'll be looking at the BEM methodology, looking at CSS, custom properties, JavaScript, DOM manipulation, API, thinking about ways to find solutions. We're also going to look at functional programming. Well, just a little bit of functional programming. So now you might be like, what? Yeah, that's a lot to cover, but um yeah, we'll just be looking at a little bit of everything. We might not go in depth, but I've gotten resources for you to like continue to make further research. Yeah, so let's get coding. So Oh, yeah, before we start coding, I would like to show you the repo. Currently, the repo is private. I'll be making it public after the event. But I have the main branch, and then the detailed, the starter, and then the starter crash branch. Basically, the detailed branch. I, pre- I think PS Code would be better to show what I'm talking about. So basically, the detailed branch, you'll find like explanations to the code, like this is the functions that can be called. Um, Basically, there are comments everywhere here, right? So if you get lost, you can switch to this branch, then check out um check out the comments I've written, and then if you want to figure things out, you can play with this code. Basically, there are comments everywhere in this file, so that is why the branch name is called detailed. Let's yeah. So this starter scratch, this branch basically is for those of you that would like to build the project from scratch, right? So the HTML file is blank, or not blank completely, but basically there's nothing here. So after the talk, you can decide to build the project from scratch by yourself. Yeah. So the next branch is the that I'd like to show you guys is the starter branch. The other one was starter scratch branch. This is starter branch. So the starter branch basically, I have the HTML, and then I have the CSS written, but there are no JavaScript files. So what you have to do is just write the JavaScript code by yourself, right? So I know this talk is supposed to be just about JavaScript, so if you don't care about the HTML and CSS, you can write JavaScript by yourself, right? Um, so lastly, let me just go live. So by the way, I have this extension. Oh, okay. Yeah, my browser is opening. Sorry about that. Let me just put that aside. Then click this. Yeah. So I have this extension called Live Server. Live Server. Yeah, so once you get this extension, you would see go live. So when you click on go live, it's open on a port. In my case, 5500. So you can see 5500. This 127.0.0.1 is basically your local host, which is your machine. You could replace it with local host, it will still work. Yeah. So for today, yeah, there's one other branch. This is the main branch. You don't have to go to the main branch because that's where I did a lot of brainstorming. So if you go to the detailed branch, I have refactored the code as much as I can, right, to make sure that it is readable. Yeah, so let's go to the work on branch. This is where we'll be um, spending a lot of our time on. This is what we'll be working on. I have the HTML done already, and then would look at the CSS, then would write the JavaScript from scratch by ourselves. So before I jump into this, let's give honor to the platform I got the challenge from. I know probably some of you might have seen the challenge before. So there's this platform, Dev Challenges. Um, yeah, so it's a great platform if you want to get your hands dirty with challenges that you could try out. Um, Let me just go to the home page so you can see. Yeah, so challenge part, we have responsive web developer, front end developer, full stack developer. So if you are really a beginner, I advise you to take on all the challenges here. You can see I've completed all the 8 challenges here, and I have my certificate. Um, so this is what we'll be working on, front end developer. And then this is the challenge we are working on. the country quiz challenge. Yeah. So the design is meant to show you. I don't know why. Yeah. So this is where I got the challenge from. Um, so you could come to this website and do the challenge from scratch by yourself. Think about the HTML, CSS, JavaScript all by yourself, or you could use the starter branch I have provided for you. Okay. So now, okay. So now, let's say you have a blank HTML file. Where would you start? So basically, if I should delete all this and then it's just a shortcut in VS Code, you could use Shift one on your keyboard, and then um you could pop this up and then start from there. I'm just going to paste everything back. Basically, I have the title, country quiz. Then I have the main element, which is containing everything. So it's containing the entire card. Basically, not well, yeah, containing the entire card, and it has a class called named container. Then I have an H2 element. Notice I'm not using an H1 here because ideally this shouldn't be like um the like the most um the most important heading. Let me just say that, right? So ideally it should be an H2, not an H1. And I named it title. And then I have this div of class card. And now this is where I start using the BEM methodology. Remember, I said we'll be talking about BEM methodology. Now, looking at source, then alt, these are basic things that an image should have. Then the class, we have card underscore underscore image. Basically, what this is doing, this is just a pattern you could follow, right? It helps you in the long run. Don't worry, I have resources that would show you more about BEM methodology. Basically, you have the card, then you rewrite the card again as the block. So this is the block, and then this img here is the image, is the element, right? So BEM stands for block element modifier. So this is how to write a block, then you put underscore underscore, then you specify the element, which is the image. Yeah, so another case is card underscore underscore question underscore underscore container. Basically, this is the block. Then these two are the elements, right? So this div contains question container, which is inside of the block card. Basically, that's the whole concept of following the BEM methodology. If you have any question, just drop them in the chat. I'll do well to answer them. Yeah. So now, Sin, please tell me if there are questions so that I can answer them. Thank you. So basically, I have this H3 element or heading rather that contains the question. This is how I decided to set mine up. So the card question has an H3 element in it. And we have card buttons. Then there are several buttons. I think I'm just going to close my WhatsApp so that I'll not get notification. Sorry about that. I have now I have several buttons. They're just four buttons. Um, in each of the buttons, I have a span element, right? So this is containing the A. You can see it has a different style attached to it. Then the options, in this case, Africa. Now, what is the continent? What continent does Nigeria belong to? Obviously, the answer is Africa, right? I could even do this. Correct and save, and yeah, because I wrote the code, so I know how the code works. Yeah, so So button, we have another button option. Basically the same thing. Basically the same thing. Yeah, I guess I should have showed you the demo before starting, like the finished version. Um, yeah, I can't find it now. I can't remember the link. Okay, so I'll paste that. I'll paste that as we proceed. Okay, so that's it. So now let's move on to um how would write the JavaScript. So let's create a script tag. Well, I do expect you to like have a basic understanding of of HTML and CSS before jumping to the JavaScript. Oh, I'm sorry. Like I know I did not talk about the CSS, so let's go to the CSS file. By the way, I've linked the CSS style sheets here. So where I have CSS slash style sheets. So if I open the file explorer, you can see the CSS folder and then the style.css. Okay, and then I have images here, obviously. Yeah, so you might be wondering what is this data.json file I have in each of the branches. Um, so yeah, the data.json file, I'll talk more about it when we get to the JavaScript section. So I'm just going to close it and let's look at the CSS. So let's learn about custom properties and other cool stuff using CSS. Yeah, um, so if you don't know what this vote is, basically it's a featured class, I guess. I think it's a featured class. Yeah, so it should be a featured class, not a featured element. A featured element should have double um double columns. Yeah, so it's a featured class in CSS. Basically, it is used to store uh, custom properties. So these are called custom properties, or you could call them CSS variables. Yeah, but I think the ideal name is custom properties because you could use them as properties. I know in CSS, basically what a property is so this is a property, but let's take it from the top. This is a selector, right? Whatever you have first is called a selector. Yeah, so you could see VS Code highlighted as selector specificity. I'm not going to go into what specificity is, but it's something you should also look out when you're learning CSS. But yeah, so we have the selector, then we have the block. Um, yeah, I think CSS declaration rather. Then we have properties, right? Then we have values. So shorthand property to set values, right? So whatever is here is called a property, and then whatever is here is called a value. So now, if I say these are custom properties, it means that I could do something like this, and then they should work. But you'd have to set some things up first. I know this is not intuitive, but basically this is a color, orange color. I know I'm just writing 37, 95%, 56%, and you probably don't know what that is, but just means a color. You see how I utilize it in the code, right? So we have heading, this I'm guessing everyone must have seen this color code. This is a hex color code. Then we have this that looks like the orange custom property, then white, then PD stands for padding, BL stands for border radius, then we have the wrong, and then we have the correct. So moving on, I have this star selector, which is called the universal selector. Then I have some properties, margin zero, padding zero, borders, box sizing, border box. Right, this is just um for my browser to have a clean slate. I'm not really going to go into what exactly that is. I do expect everyone to know what those three, um, basically what this three block of code is doing. Um, then on the body selector, which basically I'm targeting this body element. Remember, this is an element. Then in CSS, it is known as a selector. Then I'm giving the width 100 view width. So I want the width of the body to be 100 view width and the height to be 100 view height. So the view of the browser, right? So let's say I shrink the browser in a mobile way just to show you that this is responsive, right? So whatever the view is what the width and the height would take. And then I'm saying display flex, justify content center, line and item center. That is to make sure that everything is in the middle. So this three block of lines here is just to make sure that the whole card and the country quiz above it is directly at the center of the page, right? And then font family, I'm using Poppins. I imported that here, right, using the link element. And then the background image, um, so URL, you specify the path to the, you specify the absolute path. Okay, I'm trying to think if it's absolute path or relative path. There's a difference. But basically, you specify the path. So in this directory or folder called the CSS folder, I need to leave the folder and come to the images folder and then pick this background.png file. So that is why I have two dots, dot, then
Jome,
slash images.
Jome,
Yeah,
sorry for
yes,
cutting you short, but we have a question.
okay,
Sorry for cutting you short. So we have a question
okay,
from Lovett Omokaro. Sorry for bad pronunciation if I didn't get your name correctly. So she's asking,
okay,
why did you not use percentage for width and height? You use view height and view width, VH and VW. So if you have
okay,
anything to say on this, just say it first and we continue. Thank you.
okay. Yeah, so I made use of view width and view height because these are basically this are responsive units, right? So percentage is also a responsive unit, but in this case, this is much appropriate because percentage is based on its container, right? So if you have a box or like a div container rather that has 80%, and then you have another div element inside of the first div element that was 80%, and then you give that second div element 100%. By the 100% of that inner div element would be it will be the 80% of the parent div. I don't know if you understood. Well, let's try it. Let's use percentage here. Everything should still work fine. Okay. Yeah, so the width worked fine, but the height became a problem. Right. So right now the height is not 100%. So if we use the dev tool, you can see, so the width is 100%, but the height is where we have the problem. So basically, if I change the height to view height, just to be clear that the height was the problem, you see it works. So a way to get around that, you could come to the HTML. Okay, I am sorry about that. Yeah. So you could type in HTML, then make the height height to be 100%, and that would work. Basically, this is because I've encountered this problem before. That's why I know that this would work. But if you are new to CSS, you might not know that this height could like give using a percentage could give an issue. Basically, the body selector, rather the body element in the HTML, is a child to the HTML element. So let's go over the HTML again. So we can see there's an HTML element here that has the head. I'm not going to go over what's in the head, so I'm just going to close it, and then we can see the body element. Right? Let me just close this up. So you can see the body element is a child to the HTML element, right? And if the HTML element isn't 100%, you don't expect the body element to be 100%, even though you specify that the body should have 100%. Basically, it's just a tricky play, and I hope I've answered your question. And using this, you'd write more code. So I'm just going to remove that and use the view h here. View h, which stands for view height. So the view of the browser's height. Basically, get into the habit of using relative units. So I'm just going to proceed. So now I have the button. So every button in the HTML should have all of these styles, right? So remember, we declared a variable, a custom variable called dash dash br, which stands for border radius. Basically, what I'm doing here is that I am changing it, right? I'm saying br should have 12 pixels. Meanwhile, here I use 24 pixels. Basically, see, so I'm using its border radius at this line here at line 38. I'm saying border radius, then var, which is variable, it's a function in CSS. Yeah, anyway, you see these two parentheses, it means you're using a function. Yeah, remember we used a function here. So URL is also a function in CSS, which is used to set backgrounds. But the var variable is used to use a variable or a custom property. But don't worry, you get to know why I'm calling it a custom property, or why the name is a custom property. In this case, I'm not using it as a custom property yet. Yeah, I'm not using it as custom property in a way. I'm using it as a variable normally. Yeah. So basically, you have display flex, align items. This is for the buttons. So basically, if I comment this out, yeah, I'm basically breaking the code. Yeah, you see, this is what happens because in the button we have. I'm sorry. Yeah, so in the buttons we have span elements, and span elements by default are inline elements, meaning they are not block elements. Meaning, um, basically they don't have margin top and bottom. Basically, there are some restrictions you can do with them, and they don't contain the full weight of their parent container. When I mean container, it could be whatever parent elements they are inside of, right? So using display flex and making sure that the span element starts from the left, right, and they go in a roll order. Yeah, so that's what I'm doing there. Border none, border radius. I'm using this variable here. I don't want it to be 24 pixels. I want it to be 12. So I'm changing the value. Let's just experiment. So if I comment that out, you can see now the buttons, they have a bigger border radius. But if I save again, now we have 12 border radius. And this is basically padding. So this is top and bottom. The 2 pixels is saying top and bottom. Then 10 pixels is left and right. and that's what I'm using here. And then the rest, I think they are explanatory enough, transition, first family, and the rest. Yeah, so I have this container selector. I'm using it as a utility selector. Basically, utility is saying so I can use it in multiple places, but in this case, I'm just using it in just a single element, right? Which is housing every other element. Look at so the main element is housing every other element, right? So get in the habit of using the main sorry, I meant semantic HTML, right? So the main element is an semantic HTML. There's section, uh, there's aside, yeah, there are other semantic HTML. So basically the width is 90%, max width is 464 pixels, right? The reason why I'm doing this is because I don't want the container to get too large, right? So even if I do this on a larger screen, you can see that it still remains at the same height, but at width that it was. But when I shrink it, yeah, I'm sorry, I probably should have gotten water with me. Fortunately, there's no water by my side. Yeah.
Um,
Um.
People get it. Why I just keep them
Okay.
You'll get
No,
what
no, don't worry. Like it's to take a while to get the water. Don't worry.
um,
Basically, so the max width, we say when you get to this width, then you you stop growing. You can see it's shrinking. You can see the container or the card is shrinking, but when it gets to a certain width, it stops growing. And just to check out, you can see 464. Like I don't know if you can see on the white container, on the white card like stuff that pops up there, you can see
it's too small.
464
It's too small.
times.
I don't think they can see.
Okay. Okay, let me just put this back and put this back and close this. Okay, that's for the container. Then the title, which is just this country quiz. I'm not going to explain everything there. And then the button label, which is just this A, B, C, D. Those are the button labels. The I don't know if anyone has seen this property before, pointer event. Basically, I don't want you to be able to click on it. This is a trick I had to use for the JavaScript. Probably I would explain what this. Basically, you can't click on the B, but you can click on the button, but not on the span inside of the button, which is the button label and the button option. Then the card, yeah, also I'm using this variable padding, changing the variable instead of using the default one I declared up here. Moving on. Yeah. So other things, styling. But let's go. I want to show you the power of custom properties. Right. So this is exactly what I want to show you. So if I make this 30. Oh yeah, you can't see this. You can't see it. Yeah. Currently you can't see this card results because it's not yet attached to the DOM. Let me just go to another instance where I made use of custom property. Yes. Yeah, you can also see this. Wow. Right, there's not a lot of time so that I can go through this code again. Um yeah. So, sorry, let me just open this up. I guess no one has seen this, but this is the finished version. Um yeah, so there's this skeleton loader and then the question shows. when you click on one, then you can go next. Okay. So basically, why I'm calling all these custom properties is because yeah, this is a perfect example of the power of custom properties. You can oh no, I declared it. Yeah, so I, like okay. But let's move on to the JavaScript section. I'm sorry. Um, Yeah, so let's create a JS file. Let's take a second to think about um the the challenge we're trying to solve. Let's go back here and then see the challenge. So this is the challenge. So you have to use an API. Let's just read this user story. I can select at least two types of question, a city, capital, or a flag that belongs to a country. Um,
Um,
I can see, yeah,
can you
Kingsley.
zoom in this thing? This is, can you, this, the text is very small to see, very hard to see. Can you zoom them in?
So you said,
Can you zoom in?
okay,
It's really hard to do the text.
okay. Is it okay like
Yes,
this?
yes, yes, yes.
Okay, okay. Um, so basically, these are the user stories you are to implement in the code, or basically in the interface, right? So a user should be able to select at least two types of question. But I made mine four types of questions. Then when you select on one option, then you should see an answer, right? If what is selected is correct or not. From the design here, we can see when whatsoever you select is correct to show green, and when it is wrong to show red. So yeah, so when I answer correctly, I move to the next question. Yeah, so the next button will only be active whenever you answer correctly. Then when I answer incorrectly, yeah, and then you can try again. What to make use of an API? This API that is here is currently um not working. So let's see the API I made use of. Um, yeah, I'm expecting my autocomplete to complete for me. Something is wrong. Basically, if I know this API is not working, I think they changed the endpoint or something to. I can just okay. Let me slide like this and copy the API. Okay, so this is the API we'll be using to get all the countries' data and information. So it's vestcountries.com. I don't know why they have not updated dev challenges. I don't know why they've not updated the API points. Basically, let's just go through it. They're currently on version 3 or version 3.1 rather. Then you can get basically there are a lot of things you can get. You can get all. Let's try this endpoint. Basically, if you don't know what an API is, it stands for Application Programming Interface. And if uh, just look at the way it looks like. Yeah, so I have an extension JSON. Um, I cannot remember the name. But basically, I have an extension that make sure that anytime I open an API, it looks nice like this. Like this seems readable. And we can even search for, yeah, we can search for Nigeria, and then yeah, so we can now see details, or yeah, details about the country Nigeria, common Nigeria, official Federal Republic of Nigeria, basically our currency, basically everything about Nigeria. The Yeah, I'm not going to go through every single thing. Basically, the API gives you um a means for you to search for a specific country name and then get results. You search for the full name, you search for their code, that is if you know the country's code, list of codes. You could get all the codes of every country using this endpoint. Currency, language, region, blah blah blah, and so on like that. So basically what we're going to do is, sorry about that. um we are going to select some specific things from the API, and these are the things. So yeah, let me just go back. Yeah. So the API also allows you to specify the specific field you want. Probably you don't want everything that the API returns. You want to filter the response, right? So filter response, like you want to filter the data that you're getting back. So to do that, we could use, this is the endpoint. I'm sorry, it seems my screen was small before, but this is the endpoint, verscountries.com version 2. I'm actually using version 3 slash all fields, name, capitals, currency. So you'll be getting the country's name, country's capital, and then the currency. Yeah, so let's look at what I searched for. I searched for the name, capital, currency, flags, and then continents and subregions. So for this country, we're getting a flag, we're getting the name, and then we're getting currency, capital, subregion, continent, which is the exact data I need for the questions. So if you have questions about what an API is, you can drop. I have resources though that I'll share after the talk for further readings. So now, how do we um, request the API in our code? How do we fetch data with the API? I've created a main.js file, which is the file we'll be working on. We'll be working on two files though. I'll be using something called modules, imports and exports. You might not be new to that in JavaScript, but that's what we'll be using. So there are various ways in to fetch data from an API or to get data from an API. Right, we could use the fetch method, and then we paste in the link of the API, not link. The term should be terminology. Oh my god, the term will be endpoint. So we have the API endpoint, right? So this is an endpoint. Then we could use the .then method. The .then method then gets the response. So we know we'll be expecting a JSON data back, and then that JSON data will be getting the pure data, and then we can log that data. Or if I come here and then go to my console, it's going to take a while. Oh yeah, it's not going to show. That's because I've not linked to my HTML file. Um yeah, so I think here. slash no slash js slash main say module. So like if you've not seen this before, type equals to module. I'm saying this JS file would be using a module, a modular system. Basically, it's going to be using ES6 module, which I would explain better later on. I'm trying to figure out why the data are not showing. Hmm. So fetch this, then this, then the data, visible of the data. Okay. Okay, let me reload the browser. Hmm. Okay, let's just say console log header. Yeah, so it seems that it is not linked properly. Let's just remove this first.
Hey,
Oh,
hello
oh,
to me.
okay. I think, yeah. I think, okay. Yeah, so too much, I guess, HTML. So I'm not
Hmm.
supposed to use href. I'm supposed to use source. Yeah, I don't know why I made that mistake. So you see, I can make mistakes too. Everyone can make mistakes. Yeah. So
Yeah, both
yes,
of both mistakes.
yes.
And
So
okay, then
yes.
can you zoom in the screen a little bit more, like the code, so that we can see the code more
Okay.
easily? Yeah.
But are you sure? Like this is so big. But oh
Yeah.
yeah, I'll go on then. Okay, so you can
Okay.
see my files.
Okay.
Okay, so you can see I have this all this stuff here, and I have console.log hello. I'm guessing everyone knows what console.log is, so I'm not going to explain that. But basically, on the console we can see hello logs first before the data, and from the data we can see we have 250 countries data. Let me just open one. You can see the capital, continent, currency, flag, name, and subregion, which is the data we want. So we have name, capital, currency, flags, and so on. So why is this so? Why are we getting the hello first before this? Even though um this code we wrote it first before this. So this is where asynchronous JavaScript comes into play. I have an article on that. Also not going to go in depth into it because to save time. But basically, this since we're making a request to some API, basically to the rest countries API, it takes some time before they respond to our request. Another thing you should know is that the fetch method. So this fetch method, like JavaScript doesn't really know what it is, right? It's the browser's API that has the fetch method. So when the browser interprets the JavaScript code, it says the fetch method, oh, it knows what to do. Then it makes the request to the API, get the response, and then you log it. Even console.log doesn't like belong to JavaScript. It belongs to the browser. But yeah, you might not get what I mean by that, but let's just go on. Yeah, so one other thing you should know is that the fetch method returns a promise. And now I'm throwing a lot of buzzword out there, but it actually returns a promise that has the .then method, that also has the .then method because this also returns a promise. Yeah, but we're not going to do this way. We're going to use a much readable way. I can bet that everyone sees this code and be like, what is this? So here is the equivalent. are going to use the asynchronous async await rather async await method, right, to get the same data. Basically, this whole code here and this here are doing the same thing, but I feel this is readable, right? Like it's I know it's the code looks longer, but it's much readable than this. Um, yeah, I wanted to show you some resources I have for you, but I guess I'll show you that later. So I can just take this out, then explain what I have here. Yeah, so I don't know if any of you have seen this method before or like this syntax before, async. So we could go to MDN rather, async await JavaScript MDN. So it's a good you should always try to make research on any new thing you see. So async function, then you can read about it. But basically, let me just read a little about it. An async function is a function declared with the async keyword, and then the await keyword is permitted within it. Basically, the async function is saying, hey, I want to perform an asynchronous activity here in this function. And then the await is saying, wait for the response, like wait for the browser to go to this API, not necessarily go, it's like fetch to make a request to the API for the API to return the data or the response to respond to my request, the browser's request. And then, yeah, I skipped something, I'm sorry. So there's this try and catch um, syntax here. So try and catch is something you should also know about in JavaScript. Basically, is to handle errors. Yeah, so you're saying try this or this first. If there's an error, then catch it and then console.log the error. So yeah, W3 Schools is a great website. This is where I started learning from. You can see this try, catch, find out, true. But for now, we're just going to use try and catch instead of find out and true. I think this is the first time. Oh no, this is not the first time. But I've never used this true. Never find out. Basically, is a means of handling errors. So now we await the fetch call. So response is going to be a promise, and then const data is equal to await response.json. Basically, we know we are expecting a JSON data. I don't know if everyone knows what JSON is. Basically, is a format. So this here is JSON. Everything you see here is JSON syntax, where the first thing you see is an curly braces. No, this is not a curly braces. This is a square bracket. Yeah, so this here is a curly braces. I don't know why there are so many brackets, right? But this is a square bracket first. Then you see a curly braces, and then you have to put in like double quotes every time, then column. Basically, this is the syntax for JSON, and almost all APIs return JSON. But that is not the only formats that they can return. They can also return XML, extensible markup language. But you don't need to research on that. Well, you can do, but it's kind of old. But they are still making use of it today. But I've never used it. Yeah. So yeah, we're awaiting the conversion. This line is just converting whatever this response. We can even check. Let's say console log response. Sorry about that. Let's see what response. We get the hello again first. Oh, yeah, yeah. I need to call the function. Right. You need to call the function before it should run. Yeah, so we get hello, then we get this response. Looking at this, like it's not readable. Like what is body, what is all of this stuff, and but basically we need to convert all this stuff here to the JSON file, which we can see here from on the browser. How do we do that? So if you open this prototype object, I'm not going to go into deep into it, but basically if you scroll down, let me zoom so that everyone will be able to see it. Prototype, then you scroll down, you see this JSON function, right? This elf means it's a function. Then you open it, it has a bunch of stuff. Basically, we're using this function that lies within this object, what is responding, I mean, what is coming in. Just look, this is not a promise though. This is not a promise. Then we are converting behind the scenes, basically converting whatever is coming in, all these junks, then converting it to this data, which is readable. Guys, if you understand JSON. And we can console.log data. And if we do that and we load again, oh, I did not save, sorry. Now we get the country's data, 250 um, data, countries data rather. So the next stuff that we need to do is to get the data. Like I know we've gotten the data, but I want to put the data inside a variable. I'm going to do this, right? Why am I doing this? Is because I want to call the API once and I want to get all the data. So I'm calling this function. Yeah, I'm invoking a function or calling a function. Then that whatever data I have, you can see here I'm return data. And what do you expect this data to be? Data should be like the whole country's data, right? But unfortunately, it's not so. So let's try it. Let's try it. Let's say console.log data. Now we can see the hello again, but this time we see promise because this console.log comes before this, and this console.log is not asynchronous. Rather, it's not asynchronous, right? But it returns a promise, and in the promise we have something called pending. So that is the state it is in now. It's in a pending state. I think there are three states: fulfilled states, reject states, and pending. If I have a resource laid out, you can read up on promises. I have two articles on promises. You can also check them out. Um, Basically, why are we getting a promise from this function call instead of the data? And remember, we logged data here, and we saw that data was actually the country's data that we need. But in this case, we're getting a promise. Why? We're getting a promise because when let me just reload. We get a promise pending because we're still making a request. We don't know if the server that has the API has responded to our request. So initially we're in the pending state, right? So it's a promise. I think yeah, it's now fulfilled. Let me just reload again. I just want to clarify something. Reload. If I open this up, oh yeah, it's because it's fast. Basically, you're not supposed to say fulfilled there. You're supposed to see I think pending also before. Yeah, but basically, if you open it, you can see the country's data, meaning that the data has arrived, right? The server has responded with the data. Now, how do we access it? Like, how do we access the data in the promise? Because I cannot just say data dots. What do we see here? Promise results. There's not like that. There's not like promise results. Now, we want to have another function that would basically manage what question is asked. Looking at this, we have 250 questions. Do we want to ask a user 250 questions? No. Even I don't know some of the answers to all these questions, right? And I built the application in a way that you can't look at the code. Well, but yeah, you can't look at the code and you can't look at the dev tool. I mean, like the DOM structure. If you go here, then elements, you can't look at the DOM structure and get the answer. I'm pretty happy that I was able to achieve that. Right. So the answer is not here to any of the options. Right. Yeah. So let's create a function, another function. It doesn't do this. Then determine. I'm going to name it determine question. Yeah, determine question, and I'm going to pass it the data as an argument, right? So when you do this, this is an argument. Sorry, it's a parameter. Yeah, it's a parameter. When you are calling it, when you call it like this, it becomes an argument. This data here is an argument. This data here is a parameter. Right? If you don't understand what those two things mean, you can just ask me later. But this data is basically this data variable I have declared here. Just going to remove the console.log, remove this hello to make sure things are clean. So basically, this is what we have now. We have this function that makes the request and gets all the countries' data. And then we want a way to like, we know this data returns a promise, right? A promise is being returned by this function into data, but we don't want the promise, we want the actual data. So we still need to make this function an asynchronous function using the async await keyword. Then we could declare countries data is equals to weight the data. And then we could log console.log countries data. I said date, right? That is a mistake. It should be data. Okay, now let's check the console. Yeah, you see it works. Um Basically this await syntax is saying, hey, get the response and then put the response of data, which is a promise, into this variable. I know this might be hard, but with time, maybe from this talk, then you can make further research and then learn better. Or trust me, this all this is easier than is much readable than using the fetch syntax. But if you're okay with that, you can go for that instead of doing all this. And again, I know I said I would talk about functional programming. I don't know if um, we have new listener here. So I try to break things down into functions. Like all the codes, I broke them down into functions. As you proceed, I'll look into what I meant by functional programming for those that don't know what that is. Um, so basically now we've gotten all our data. We're only getting it once. because we only need the data once. So if we click on the next button, we should use the data we already have, and we should not make a request, another request to the API. We've succeeded in doing that. Now, what next do we have to do? Do we want to do? Right? We want to have a condition that says if the country's data exists, let's say it takes the server a lot of time before they actually return return the actual data that we see here. So that's what I'm saying. I'm using this condition, right? So if this country's data is true, I could say is true. This will be true because this we await this, and then but if there's some error, then it will be false. It's only when there's an error. Like if this catch happens, there will be an error, and this also will also not work. It's true an error. So just to be safe, I'm using a function. Rather, I'm using an if condition here. So yeah. So sorry, I'm just copying the already made code, and yeah, then I would explain as I proceed. Because if I do everything from scratch, oh my god, it's going to be so um difficult. Like so I shrink the screen so that you can see it better on a large scale. Um so what next? Now we are sure we've gotten the country's data. We need to pick a single country's data. Look at we have 250 countries data. We need to pick just a single country's data. Let's say the first one. We need to pick this first country's data that has capital, continent, currency, and so on, and ask a question on it. But we don't just want to pick the first one or the second one or the third one. We want to pick we want to pick it the data randomly. So now how do you pick some data randomly? Right? You use the max.random times ran yeah. So this would be times whatsoever you want randomly. So now let's say in the data we know the data length is 250, and then we have to think about two things. So I'm talking about the thinking process that I applied in order to um provide a solution, right? So we have 250 data, and then we want to also get wrong choices. Look at like this question: what continent does Nigeria belong to? We obviously know it's Africa, and then we need all this data to be wrong. Assuming this option was also Africa, that is a bug, right? So you should not have to Africa. Don't worry, I'll talk about how we're going to fix that later on. Yeah, but right now we want three other options that will be wrong, and then we want one of the options to be the correct answer. Now, how do we do that? So if we picked at random and then we picked the last country, the very last country, which is 250. Yeah, we picked the last country, 250, and then we want to pick um three other countries that would provide us a wrong answer. We could do it like this. We pick the last country, then we pick the next the above three countries. So I guess let's start with, let's say we pick the first country, which is this zero index, right? Which is what's the country name? Botswana, whatever country this is, right? It's an African country, or Botswana. We picked this country. This is the country we want to ask our questions from. But the three wrong choices, what country would we get their data from? The way I thought about it was that I would pick the next three countries, right? So this country, and then they thought this other country would all provide um, the wrong options, right? This would be where the question is coming from, and then this other three would be wrong options. But there's a problem with this, right? There's a problem with this. All of if the question to be asked is a continent question, you can see this country that we've picked for our question is Africa, this is Europe, this is basically these three are different, but what of if all of them are the same? That's a bug you don't want. I'm going to talk about how I fix that later on. Yeah, I'm just trying to make sure you understand thinking process, right? Once you understand how to think and solve a problem, then you'll become a great developer. I'm not saying I'm a great developer. I'm still learning, but at least you get to that thinking habit of like functions while you're programming, right? So don't give up and just keep on learning. So basically, what I'm doing here is that I am saying the country's data dot length, which is 250 minus 50. The reason why I'm doing minus 50 is because I want there to be at least three other options, in this case, 50 other countries' data that I can pick wrong choices from. If the the random stuff I'm going to be using, which I'm going to talk about, is going to select the last country, which in this case will be 200. So if just for showcasing sake, for those that does not understand what all this code will be doing. So basically this is going to be 200. So if I save, um yeah, where is it? Hmm. Like I wonder why this did not log to the reload again. Wow. Wow, okay. So basically the random marks will be 200, and then we need out of the 200 countries data, we need to select anyone at random. So we use the math dot. Let's imagine this is not here first. Let me explain what this is, because this is actually the brain. So we use math dot random, which is a method, times 200. Imagine this is 200, right? It's ought to be 200. So let me just type it here. Math dot random multiplied by 200. I'm sorry about that. So we get floating point numbers. We don't want floating point. So to get rid of those floating points, we use the floor method. So we say math dot random.
Hey, Jome, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Please, it's really, really hard to see what you're doing, especially for a mobile
Oh,
phone.
okay. Is it bigger
Okay,
now?
thank you. Yes, this is clear. Thanks.
Okay. Okay. So so now you see I've gotten rid of the floating, like the float point. And then if I call the the block of code again, you see the number keeps changing. But the maximum points, the maximum number I can get here would be 200. So it would be from 0 to 200. Yeah, I hope everybody understands that. So basically, this question random will be holding whatsoever number that was generated. We want to use that number as the index. Then, yeah, I'm saying now we need to hold the index of that country data we want to use as the correct answer, or as or as the question we are currently asking, right? So I have a variable here, let's country data. Probably should have named the variable correctly, much explanatory. Country data is equals to the country's data, which is a big it's a big array. Let's just say it again. But yeah, okay. It took it longer than expected. Um, so it's an array of that has several objects, and then when you use the square brackets, you're basically saying get a specific index of the array, right? So let's log this console log this. Oh, I think I did something. I don't know. Like I don't know why questions random is not showing. That is strange. Like what is wrong? Hmm.
It's inside a condition statement, or if countries data equals true.
Okay.
Do you get?
Oh,
Is
okay,
the countries
okay.
data true?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. So I think that was the problem. Now it shows.
Okay.
So remember the function. Thank you, Kingsley. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
you're
the
welcome.
function itself, it's we used async is an async function. That means there could be a delay. Whatever going on in the function could have a delay. So at the initial, like when the function was invoked, country's data was actually false, right? See, I'm logging the country's data here. I'm not logging it inside of this if condition. That's why it was showing. And again, if you look at it, it takes some seconds to like show, right? So, but once the country's data becomes true, then this condition can run. The condition also has a delay before it runs. But when I did this, when I said it is um equals to true, and when the function ran, country's data was actually undefined. So that's why everything the block of code inside of the condition was not working. Yeah. So thanks to Kingsley for like pointing that out. So now we can see we've randomly selected 85. You can comment this out, and then I could um log this. I'm going to try to be fast now. Okay. So yeah. So country 101 or at the index of 101. This is the country's data. This country name is Cambodia. Sorry, I cannot pronounce that. Cambodia, continent Asia, blah blah. If we reload, yeah, okay, reload. We pick another country. This country is Israel. Nice, Jerusalem, Asia. Yeah. So basically, I'm sorry. Um, this other, this basic, all this line is just saying pick the next country, the next country. That's why I have plus one, plus two, plus three. So let's say country questions random is 13. So the next country's data will be 14, 15, 16. Yeah. So this table will serve as the incorrect options, and then this would be the correct option. Um so basically now we need a way to like to compare if the question selected is right or wrong. I know I just pasted a big code that looks scary. But don't worry, I would explain it. Remember the part where I talked about if the next countries the next country, like country one, like country data next one, country data next two, like if they have the same errors, imagine you have, let me just illustrate it like this. Um, yeah. So let's say the next country's data, the continent is also in Africa, and so you have two Africa's options, and then you have America and you have Australia. Now, you are sure that this the country Nigeria belongs to Africa continent, but as a user, you'll be like confused. Which of these options am I picking? Right, because there are two Africas. Then you end up picking one, which both of them will not be correct. But you don't want this, right? You don't want this. I've told you why there's a possibility that we might get this. But currently, I have not updated the reason why I'm telling you this is because I've done the project already, and I know that there's a possibility of you getting this. But we've not gotten to the point where we talk about DOM manipulation. So when we get to that part, um, would change the options dynamically and the questions dynamically. But for now, let's talk about how we would handle that error. Yeah, again, I'm pasting some some crazy code here. I'm sorry if the code looks scary, but I'll try to like explain every single thing I did. I just I feel like everything in my system now is so big. Like okay, I oh my god. Um I'm sorry, I'm trying to get to my console. Yes. Okay. Okay. So now I have declared a function called compare object. So basically compare the three objects like countries data next one, country data next two, three. All of them will be an object. Just to show you that it's basically an object containing the country's data. I'm sorry, excuse me. And then we have, so let's look at this function, what the function is doing. So the function takes in three objects, rather four objects. And now I'm saying if the first object, yeah, I know this this looks unreadable because I just use A, B, C, D because I like I'll start type. But basically, if the first um object continent, let's just open this now. Surprisingly, there are some countries that have multiple continents. Yeah, surprisingly. Um, so for this country, we only have one continent. That's why it's an array that has zero. In this case, North America. So that's what I'm targeting here. Continent I'm targeting is zero index. In this case, let's say North America is equals to the next country, which is B, that also well, I'm targeting its continent, the first index, and then like that. If A is equals to D, if A is equals to C, if B is equals to this, basically the subregion. So these are the properties could be um, that could be the same in each country's data. And I don't want the country's data to remain the same. So if they are the same, return true. right? So if country data next one, two, three have the same properties, have this selected properties, right? Continents or regions are the same, returns true, else returns false. So basically, um, yeah, sorry about that. Results, this variable is expecting a boolean, is expecting it either true or false. So this is a comment. Why I don't like comments in my code. Just again, for those of you joining late, I have several branches in the file. So there's a detailed branch. So if we should, oh yeah, I can start. No, let me not start. Let me just make this commit, and then I'll show. So work. Let's see. So if we go to the detailed branch, you can see comments everywhere. So if you'd like to like go over my code and then upload comments so that you can read what each block of code is doing. Personally, while I'm writing my code, I don't like the comments. The um yeah. So I don't just like putting comments. So I just remove that. So the result is going to be that true or false. Then you can see I'm passing in the country's data, the next one, 1, 2, 3. These three are options. Well, what all of them are options, but then this is the correct one. This next three are incorrect options, which should be yeah. So while true, so if I'm using a while condition here, so if the results value is true, remember this function would run first before the while loop. So while true, keep doing this. Oh, sorry, I messed up the code. Let me just zoom out a little bit so that you can read the code on one line. So I'm saying country's data is equals to, I'm selecting a random number again. Remember, basically I'm doing everything I did here. Sorry, I don't know why my cursor is misbehaving. I did everything I did here again, right? So if the properties of the object are the same, select other properties that are not the same. So if we yeah, I can show you what I mean. Yeah, there's something I did not talk about. So instead of making a request to this API every time, I have saved you the trouble. If you're like me that needs to reserve data, so you can use this data.json file, which already has all the data from the API. So instead of making a request to the server that's providing the API, you can just replace all of this with data.json. By the way, I copied that from, I just copied everything here, and everything should still work fine. So if I should also log countries data, I just get the 250. Where is it? 250. Yeah. Hello, Kingsley. Are you still there? Kingsley. Okay. Let me just check. Okay, Okay, the next thing, I'm calling the function again, right? To compare if whatsoever is selected is also the same. So result again is going to be either true or false. So what next do we want to do? We want to have all the wrong choices in an array, which is what I did here. So all the wrong choices, we know they are country data next one, country data next two, country data next three. And then I'm going to tell you why I did this. This next code I'm going to paste now. Countries type. So let me just paste the next code and then so let me just take everything like this. And then remove the comments.
Hello, Jome.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm really sorry. I had some technical issues.
Okay. Okay.
I
No.
had to change the scene now. I think this one is better.
Okay. Okay. No, no problem. Um. So I know I just pasted bunch of code here, but let me explain it them. Starting with these functions here. So I like doing stuff like this. We have little functions that do little things. So I have a function named select that is expecting some parameter named element, and it returns document or query selector element. So I try borrowing some principles from functional programming where you have a function that takes in an input, mostly one input, then returns something. But this function is not a pure function because of I don't want to go into functional programming, so I'm going to stop there. But basically, um, this function returns document or query selector. Instead of me writing document or query selector, then elements, I can just write select, then element. And also, instead of me writing um, document or query selector all, I can just write call this function. So that's how I'm doing that. Now I have all the wrong countries data in an array, putting them in the wrong choices variable. Then now this block of code here, all it's doing is taking oh yeah. So before we jump into this code, right now you can see countries flag question, all this and they are not declared. Let's talk about ES6 models. So we need a way to know the questions, right? Like look at this look at for this example, this question that you can see on the screen. Let me zoom in. What continent does Nigeria belong to? Right? This question is asking a continent question. So we need to determine if how many types of questions do we want to ask, right? Do we want to ask questions that are based on what continent does this country belong to, or we want to ask questions that are based on what is the capital of this particular country, what is the subregion of this country, what is the um. So you'll be given the country's flag, and then you say what country does this country's flag belong to. So those are the four types of questions I decided to go with. But then from the country's data, you can decide what type of questions you would like to form. So you could tweak the code and then decide what kind of question. Maybe you want to ask questions on the native names, right? Or in my case, I only want questions on the country's flag, capital, sub-region, and then the continent. So let's create another JavaScript file. I'm going to name it questions templates.js. Yeah, so I cannot remember exactly everything I wrote, so let me just copy every single thing here and paste it, then I'll explain it. Um, yeah, I'm going to remove the comments since I'm explaining. You can always switch to that branch and then get the explanation I wrote there. Sorry. Um, so there are four types of questions. The first question is going to be a capital question. The next one, continent question, country flag, then sub um sub-region question. Now, this is a function that is expecting the correct country data. I should have said correct country data instead of data here. So this is a parameter data, which is going to be the correct country's data, and then wrong choices is an array of all the wrong countries data options that we selected. So basically, data would be this country data, and then wrong choices is this that has all the incorrect countries data. So I'm putting them in another array. I don't we use array a lot. Um no, now for this capital question, since I'm asking what capital, like a typical question would be what's what is, look at the capital, let's say um what capital, let me just look at this data and check what's the capital of any country. Yeah, so the capital of Nigeria, let me just let's use Nigeria, is Abuja, right? Abuja is the capital of what? Of what country? Now, since we know that this question is a capital question, and then we want to select the capital. Look, I'm using data because I know data is the correct country's data we want to ask question of from, rather. Data dot countries 0. I'm selecting the first um element in the array is the capital of what country. So this overall data is basically containing the answer to the question. So data.name.common, if we scroll up here, we have data, which is the correct country's data, dot name, getting the name property, then the common property, which is nested inside of the name property, which is the name of the country. So you should get into an habit of reading API structure the way it is. Basically, it's like an object. But I'm saying data.name.common, which would return the value of the country. Basically the same thing here, but remember wrong choices is an array. Look at it, it's an array. So I'm using the index 0, 1, 2. So what is this block of code doing here? So basically, now looking at this structure, if looking at it, the correct answer, data.name is always going to be the first option, and then the next rung is going to be the next. But we don't like that. We want the options to be picked randomly instead of um instead of showing the correct answer always at the top. We want the correct answer to be anywhere, and then the user is meant to select the correct answer. So we have to shuffle the array. We have to shuffle the overall data array. So let's see what the function is. By the way, I did not think about this, so I searched online and I found the answer. Like, I mean, I did not write this code myself. I saw it on Stack Overflow, so I should give credit to where credit is due. Like, yeah, but I understand what whoever wrote it did. But looking at it, I know it's daunting. Like, you might not understand what's going on here. But basically, we're getting the array. The array in this case is the overall data, and um then we're saying if I is equals to the array dot length, which in this case would be 4 minus 1, that would be 3, and then I I in this case is 3. If 3 is greater than 0, and then if 3 is greater than 0, then we decrement. That will be I minus minus. That's what this is for. Now we have another variable cons j. I know the names are not like intuitive, but bear with the code. So j is equals to match the floor. I've explained what this does. Basically, it picks a random number from 0 to 3. No, this is not 0 to 3. Since this is I plus 1, that will be 0 to 4. Look at I plus 1. And we know I is 3 in the first iteration of the for loop. That will be, so in this case, it will be mass of random times 4. So from 0 to 4, pick a random number. Then the math to floor is basically saying we don't want decimal values or floating point values. Then here is doing something called destructuring. I said he, I'm assuming, I don't know if the person that wrote this code is a he or a she, or whatever what the code is destructuring um, from this array. So if you are not familiar with destructuring, I would also leave a guide. But basically, we're swapping the values of each index. Yeah, so the I in the first iteration, let's say I would be 3, J would be from 0 to 4, any random number, right? Let's say 2. So what I'm supposed to be talking about this, then this aspect is going to be destruction. Then we return the main array, but the contents, like this, the way I structured it like this might have changed to something like this. Right, this goes up. Basically, the structure of this overall data would be changed, and then it will be returned in this random array. And then here I am returning a string or a string containing HTML elements, right? I'm using the template string. When you use this, I don't know what symbol it is, but like I've forgotten the actual name, but it is used for, it's known as template string. Like you could in JavaScript, there are three ways of writing string. You could use single column, double column, and then this column. But I don't know what's the, like Kingsley. Do you know what this all this is called? Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
okay, like what is it called?
Backtick.
Like
I think
this
that is good.
backtick.
Yeah,
Okay.
backtick.
No, okay. Yeah, you can
Oh,
use
is
the
there
back.
another name for it?
I think
Right,
there's another name.
right below the escape key, right? Is it that?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's back. I'll be calling it back. I don't know.
Okay. Right, but I think there's another name for it. But
It's no, it's
let's.
back tick. It's back tick.
Oh, okay. Okay, backtick. Okay. Okay. So we use the backtick symbol to declare a template string. Then we put the HTML element in it. But using the template string syntax, we can do something like this, where we embed JavaScript code inside of the string. So we use the dollar sign, then we open a curly braces or brackets, curly brackets or curly braces. But it's good to be familiar with all these terms. It's help you so when other people are talking about it, you also know what they're talking about. Yeah. So by using the syntax, now we can write JavaScript. Remember, this is a string, but we want to embed JavaScript code inside of the string. That's why we're using the dollar sign and the curly braces. Now I'm saying data dot capital, picking the first index. Then, so this would translate to, let's say the country that was selected was Nigeria. So it would be the capital of Nigeria is Abuja. So it would be Abuja is the capital of. Then the options here would be the countries, right? Which is what we've kind of selected here. Then we have another function, right? So now let's go with what this function is. Button container. So basically, the function is taking a parameter random array, then returning some div, right? Which we've seen, right? So it's basically returning everything here, but the contents, right? The contents are JavaScript instead of putting it manually or generating it dynamically, which is going to be the correct answer to whatever question that is being asked. So let's look at another type of question. I'm just going to go over this second type of question, and then the rest you should be able to figure it out on your own. So this type of question is a continent question, right? So it would be like, what continent does whatsoever country belong to? So we could say, what continent does Nigeria belong to? So data.name.common is from the API is the name of the country, right? Then, so these are continents data. You can see data.continent 0, right? From the country's data. Why is that not showing anymore? Let me. Oh yeah, it's not showing because I've introduced some new things that so it's showing an error saying I don't know what these are, which is understandable. Okay, let me just fix that error quickly, and then would go back and explain it. Okay. Um. Okay. Okay. Now let's go over this continent function. So same thing. We have a variable declared again overall data, but this time we know we're focused on the continent. From the question, it determines the type of options we have, right? So since it's a continent questions, the options um are also continent answers. and then we randomize the way what we're doing is this shuffle array, which is basically shuffling the way this array looks like. Basically brings this up, maybe takes this down. So it changes every time you call the function. Changes the position, the index of each element in the array every single time you call the function. Right? But changing it so that the options will not be the same. Right. So you don't want your application to for the user to know exactly where the correct answer is always going to be. Like if we don't do this, then at every question, the first option will be the correct answer, and then the next three will always be the wrong. So that is exactly why I'm doing this. Then this is the question. Then this function that does the same thing generates um the buttons. So now that we've gone through that, let us go back to the main code. Now, this is where we stopped. Now we have questions type. We have the type. So I just gave this a name, which is relating to the function, and this is what they call ES6 modules, which is basically a means of importing things and exporting. So you can import and export. I'm not going to go in depth, but you can import a particular function. Notice here I said I wrote export const blah blah exporting this function, and in here I am importing the function. I have a type and then the function name, which we'll be calling on later. Now, we need to select the type of question we want to ask, also randomly. We don't just want to select one type of question every single time. So, um, yeah, so I have this array that has an object of each questions and then the type. I'll tell you why I did this in a second. But when we get there, then basically this is not new. I'm getting the length of the question type. In this case, will be four times maths.random, which should select a random number from 0 to 4, and then we remove the floating point, and then the question types we hold that particular question that was randomly generated. So selected question, if we should log also log it comes to the browser. Let's go into this now. Yeah, we can see the type of question that was selected is sub-region question. Yeah. So now there's one other thing we did not do. So we need to keep track of the score. So if you notice from the design, um, not this, yeah, this. So at the end of the question, we need to say you got 4 correct answers. So we need a means to keep track of the score that the user got correctly. And then we need to also keep track of the number of questions um that has been asked to the user. So to do that, we can declare a variable here. So let score equals to 0, and then let the questions number equal to 0. Okay. Now we have two variables. One to keep track of the score that that has been answered correctly, and the other one to determine how many questions we want to ask. In this case, we're only asking 10 questions. But yeah, we've not gotten to the code logic that says we're answering. But I'm just telling you up front that it's 10 questions that we'll be making it work with. Right? So let me comment this code. Now I'm saying select the ID, the elements that has the ID of card question container, right? Card underscore underscore question underscore container dot inner HTML. So now this is where DOM manipulation comes into play, right? So I am telling JavaScript to change the content of the DOM, and then I'm saying selected question, which is whatsoever question we want to ask or that has been randomly selected by JavaScript engine rather, get the question. Look at question func. Basically, call with that function. So in this, let me save everything. And you see it works, right? The question has changed. So it's selected subregion. Now if I reload again, another should be selected. This time it selects. It's always selecting subregion. Hmm, mm, 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 mm. Yeah, so something must be wrong there. I'll figure it out later. But let's proceed. Getting it. Yeah, there's something I did. Let me. This this should not be here. Oh yeah, you see it works. This is another question. You could have what country does this flag belong to? So if you go to the questions template, country's flag, I guess you should be able to read this yourself. But then, so we have countries data and then wrong choices, which is what we're getting here, data and wrong choices. So this is where I'm passing the function, like the arguments to these various functions depending on the type of question that is shown. I hope we all understand that. I know this code is kind of intermediate level. Yeah, so now in this case you've answered one question. Oh yeah, so in the determine question, since we're trying to follow the functional programming principle, we need to pass it in. We need to pass it to this function, and we also need to pass in the score. So we don't want things to be accessible outside. So I'm just going to do this real quick and explain further why I am doing this. So copy and then paste it here. And now we should. Oh yeah. It should be questions number, not question number. Okay. Okay. Just okay, let's make use of question number instead, so that it will look like the code I'd already written. So yeah, let's use question number instead of questions number. So now everything works well. Um, so the moment this we render the particular question to the DOM, we want to say, hey, this is question one, right? So we show the user the first question and we're saying we increment the question number variable. Remember it was 0. Now we add 1 to it and say this is question 1. Then I have this condition that says if the question is 10, then the button next should be displayed none. We don't want to see the button. Yeah, so let's see what next we have to do. So now we are going to call another function, which is going to be determine option click, right? Determine the option that the user clicks on. Now let's go see what that function does. Kingsley. Okay, so the function is, yeah, the function is really big. I'm going to try to explain every single thing. Yeah. So wait, once we go over this function, um, I, I guess we're done. Yes. So let me close some things because we don't need them. Yeah. So now we need to determine what the user clicks on, and then determine if what the option the user clicks on is correct or wrong. So if it is correct, then we want the button to be color green, and if it is wrong, we want the button to, sorry, we want the button to be color red. So in the function, it is expecting all these parameters: data, country data, the type, the score, and then the um the question number. So the first thing first, we want to get the correct question option. Please, when you're reading this code, try to go to the detailed branch so that you can see explanation of every single thing I have done so far. Because I know the code might be intimidating, so try to switch to that branch and check out what I did. So now this check button clicked is to determine if the button that was clicked by the user is the correct answer. So now the function is expecting two um arguments, right? Countries data, the correct countries data, the data that is correct. Sorry, I should not put it like that. The country's data that the question is based on, right? And then we want to know the country's type. Now, if the country's type is either of these two, so either the country's flag question and the capital question, both of them requires you to return the country's data name, right? Because let's say country flag question. This is saying what country does this flag belong to? So you need to know the country's name that the flag belongs to. So that is why I have this if condition here. So basically the same thing. If the country's flag is equals to sub-region, then we want this. So you can say these are the answers, and then if the country's type is equals to this, then return the correct answer. Now, so this answer variable is holding the correct answers that this function returns. Okay, close this. Okay. Now, button cont. I don't know why I named the variable like this, but it should be button container. That was what I had in mind, right? But I did not just want to write it because it seems long. So button container, I was saying select the card buttons, which is the div surrounding all of the buttons. If you check the HTML, we see card buttons, the div surrounding or containing every of the buttons. I will just see, yeah. So I'm selecting that element, and then I am also selecting the next button. Now, by default, I want the button to be disabled. That's why I have next button dot disabled equals to true, because when the questions first loads, I don't want you to be able to click on the next button because you've not selected any options. So until you select an option, you can't go to the next question. So that is the logic here. And now I'm saying I'm adding an event listener to the button container. Um, why am I doing this? You might ask. So, like the first way I decided to tackle, like what I want to do, or yeah, what I want to do here is that so whatsoever option you select, I want to determine if whatsoever the option you selected is correct or wrong. Now, there are two ways you can do this. There are not two ways, actually. There are multiple ways. As while programming, you'll find out there are several ways to like solve a problem. So you could, in the HTML or in the DOM that we have here, the first way I did it, which I refactored, so you can check my commit history to see um the different changes I've made to the code over time. So you could put the the answer directly in the you put the answers here. Like I could say data dot answer. Answer is equals to that was the way I did it initially. But this is not ideal because anyone can just see the answer directly from the HTML, except they're using their mobile devices. Right? Using your mobile phone, you can't see the depth zone. Or yeah, but this is if the user is technical. Like if it's a normal user that does not know how to interact with all the special features that the browsers provide, then obviously that user will not be able to see the answer. But now to tackle this problem, I am selecting the buttons container, and then this is where all the magic happens, right? Just looking at the function, look how scary it looks like. Okay, yeah, but I would do my best to explain properly. And if you have any questions, you can ask, right? You can message me on Twitter or any other social platform. Someone, which I'll show again, by the way. Yeah. So on the buttons container, I am attaching an event handler. I'm listening to the click events using the add event listener function, which is an higher order function that takes in another function. Now let's look at what the other function is. So the other function name is handle button option. I know there are so many functions, but basically, um, with this function, the handle button functions, I have access to the event. So this e parameter is the event. Basically, is the whatsoever that was clicked on. So I could change this into event. Like if you are new to JavaScript, you might not understand what I did here. But basically the event is implicitly passed to the function. Like notice I did not like call the function and pass e. If I should do this, it will be wrong, right? It will not work. But by default, it will be passed implicitly. So you don't do it by yourself, but you just know that hey, it is there. And this is because of prototype inheritance that JavaScript has inbuilt. But I'm not going to go in depth into what that is. But basically, I'm saying selected option is the target, right? E dot target. So we can check what that is. Let's see. Let's say console.log. Um, so I hope everyone can see this. Hello, Kingsley. Sorry, I'm almost done. I know the talk is taking longer than expected, but I'm almost done. Um, so the card, look at, I just clicked on the e dot target, which is event dot target, is whatsoever I click on. So I click on this, I get the tab button. When I click on this, I get the button I clicked on, all the wow, this is correct. I never knew that this country is lit with little whatever the pronunciation is. So basically that's what this line is doing, and then I'm getting the text, right? Remember that the in the button there are two span elements, and the last element is what has the what has the option. So that's what this is doing. So E dot target is saying what you clicked on, dot last element. The last element is the last span element, and then I'm getting the inner text. Remember in the CSS file, I did something that I said I would come back to. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Yeah. So I on each of the span elements, I um declared this property called pointer event, and I made the value none because I don't want the user to be able to click on which the span element, which is a child to the button. Like, sorry, if I should disable this, just for me to show you what I mean, and then I click on South Africa. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Just to demonstrate what I'm talking about, let's still console.log. Um, console. Oh my god. Okay. Yes. So I have. Oh, shit. Yes. Okay. So if I click on North America, cannot read properties of null. Hmm. Okay, because there's no time, I'm not going to figure out why that is not working the way it should work. But basically, if I uncomment this out and then I click on, then it works. It works properly. Um, Now, if the selected option contains button option, then we want the answer which we've gotten here, which is the correct answers data. Now, if the correct answers data is equals to the text that you said that the user selected on, we want to add this class of correct, which should add the green color to the button. Then we increment the score. So the user has gotten one score. Else we remove the instead we add the wrong class, which should add the red color to the button. Then what of if the user did not select the correct answer? We also want to tell the user, hey, what you selected is wrong, right? So how do we do that? We we go through all the buttons right? So I'm saying select all button options. Then we loop through the buttons, right? For each buttons, if the button, the last element, the inner text is equals to the answer, they add the correct class to that particular button that was equals to the answer. I'll advise you to like go through my code, read it, and like to properly understand it. Read the detailed branch, go to the detailed branch and read the comments I left for you so you understand it. Then I'm saying the next button disabled should be false. So now when we click here, we should be able to go to the next question, click, go to the next question, click, go to the next question. Other action is happening here. Yeah, it's happening here. So next button, add event listener, which is calling the determine question all over again. So that is how it works. Yeah, so I'm going to stop here. Kingsley.
Yep.
Yeah. So basically I've gone through DOM and everything. I'm going to stop here. There's one
Okay.
final thing I did not talk about, right? So when you get to the 10th question, this page appears that shows you your score, and then you can click on try again. I'm not going to talk about the try again um functionality, but basically it's calling the same function, the determine question, and then we reset everything to the initial state, and then we call the same function, and then everything keeps running in a cycle. Yeah. So
Yeah,
that's
so you
that
want it
is
to
it.
be like an exercise, right, for them. You want it to be like a challenge.
Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, yeah, but they can see the code though. I've done it, so they can
Okay.
see. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay. Okay, that's true.
the only challenge that I can, well, not the only challenge, you can improve this code any way you see fit. So think about it.
Yeah.
If you see any bug, try to fix it. But there's one thing I noticed. You could have the same question shown twice or as many times as possible, right?
Mm.
Like the JavaScript engine could repeat the same question this like the same time. So you can try to prevent that from happening by doing what we did here. Why I have this. I'm just going to give you an hint so you can have an array to keep
Okay.
track of the index of questions that were asked before. And if it already exists, then use
It's
a while loop
yeah.
or whatever loop.
Okay.
Yeah.
To record
So another
the function.
yes. So I have um a branch called the starter branch. I said this earlier, but I'm just saying it again. So the starter branch is if you don't care about the HTML and CSS, you just want to do JavaScript all over by yourself, you can go to that branch and do it. If you want to write the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript all by yourself, you can go to the starter dash scratch branch. The detailed branch is where I have detailed explanation. This branch is where you start from scratch the HTML, CSS, JavaScript all by yourself. This branch have written the HTML, CSS for you. All you have to do is just um, JavaScript. Then the main branch is the branch where I did all my brainstorming and all of that. You can check it out if you want. Basically, it's the same thing as the detailed branch, except with the comments. Thank you for thank you for listening.
All right.
Oh,
This was
yes.
this was an amazing workshop. So I think the link to the repository is what you sent to me earlier, right?
Um, I can. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll send. Let me just do it now. Let me just.
Okay.
Um,
Okay, it was private.
yeah, it was private. I
Okay,
don't
then
know.
I
I
should.
don't know why I made it private.
Okay. All right. Okay, you can do that.
Oh,
Anytime.
oh. Okay.
Oh, what's the problem?
Like I did not click on make public. I just
Okay, okay, don't worry. We can figure something out later. Actually,
well,
kind of reason was
I'll send it to you now.
okay. All right, so Jome, I really appreciate you for doing this. This is like I love how you kind of make you actually made it seem kind of simple, especially if you already have some idea of JavaScript. And I like how you started. It seemed like a vision of everything
Yes.
in track, the HTML, the CSS, and then transition, and then transition into JavaScript and how we can use it to solve the problem. And
Yes.
one step I also like, I love, not this nice, I don't pass like, I love. One thing I love was
Okay.
how you kind of like explain a problem, sometimes give you suggestion on how to solve it, and then you show us a cleaner, version of the solution. I love that a lot,
Yes.
especially when you use fetch and then went into async and wait. So yeah, I just hope the people actually understood the whole thing. If they don't, um, we can give you guidance in a group chat. So just because they have
Yes.
as soon as
Yes.
what I'm doing workshop. So
Okay.
yeah. So Nelson, is there any comment or any question for
Oh, can I
students?
just say something really quick? My battery
Right.
is actually low.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's my goal of anytime soon. 6%. Wow.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
We're ending the broadcast.
Okay.
Just one last thing. One last thing. Which VS Code team was that? Because I actually love it. Hey, Jome. We lost him. I think his system just went off. Nelson, we can't hear you.
So I think we lost him. Maybe the battery is off now.
Okay. I really want to know what team is that. I love the VS Code team. Did you see it?
Huh? What do you say?
The VS Code. His VS Code team is beautiful. I wanted
Yes,
to know
yes.
which team is that. All
Yeah.
right.
I
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. I just wanted to appreciate how neat and clean his code are. They are
Okay.
nice, very nice. Yeah. Where I
All
was,
right.
there was a lot of noise. I had to move out of that place.
Okay. No
Yeah.
problem. So I want to appreciate you guys for sticking around to the end. So this is the end of the broadcast. Jimmy just sent a message now that his PC is dead. Ouch.
Oh.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the end of the broadcast. Ciao.
All right.
See you. See you on
Um.
demo day. Want to see you on
Yes.
Monday. All right.
All right. Bye.